Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a musician based in Manchester. Her name is Mia Carmen. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah. Bit all over the place, but when it comes to sitting down and doing this, it's very just, you sit down, you do the show, and after 6 years now, I don't know, it's kind of, you get into a flow and such, despite the noise of life, you know. I imagine it's a lot like being on stage for yourself. It's, you know what I mean? Like you could have like the craziest noise going on around you, but as soon as you get on stage, it's just like clockwork.
Yeah.
In theory. Anyway, before I jump into a myriad of questions. So I think I found you originally on, I want to say TikTok, maybe. It's interesting how that works as well, because from what I can see, a lot of the time it does throw up local creators from your network, people you may know, and sometimes that can be annoying because it'd be like, well, I do know them, but I don't want to know them. And other times it's like, oh, who's this? Oh, they're going to the same places I do. That's a bit weird. That's, you know, it's like almost like too familiar. But then you end up like discovering people, and yeah. I've been discovering a lot of amazing artists over the last, I want to say 2.5 years, especially in Manchester and just all around the country. And I found yourself, and I was pretty stoked about that, like what you're doing, just everything in general, the presentation of it all and such. But before we kind of get into what you're doing now, let's kind of go to the beginning. So, where does your music journey begin? Where does it start for you?
So I've loved music for as long as I can remember, and I've always listened to music, and I've always enjoyed singing. So I started singing when I was like really very young, but I always had terrible stage fright, so I never actually performed or kind of even wrote my own music. I almost didn't let myself do that until I was about 14 years old. So I was terrified of singing in front of anybody, and I didn't do it. And then I think the first time I performed was like some school event where I did some backing vocals or something. And then that helped me start to overcome the fear a little bit. And then I booked my first ever gig, like a small pub gig when I was 15. And then I haven't really stopped since.
So this is interesting. Let's start with this. So you've got this stage fright. When you got on stage and you had that kind of stage fright, what was going through your mind? Like, is it just general self-doubt? Is it, because some people speak about feeling a sense of paralysis. I know in my experience, the very first time I got on stage, I was forced to go on stage, and you know, to be honest, in retrospect, it was the right thing to happen. But in the moment, I was like, no, and then you get on, and you just similar to yourself. Like I think it was a pub thing, and I was like, oh, that felt good.
Yeah.
They even clapped. Wow. Okay, cool. And then, you know, like many things in life, the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel with it. I don't want to speak for all musicians here, but I think that, or, you know, performers, but I think a lot of the time you always have some degree of like nervousness, but then it's, like I said at the beginning, business as usual. So working through that stage fright, like what was going through your mind and how did it get easier for you?
I think like when I grew up, I was always quite a naturally shy person anyway. So it kind of always felt like performing or any kind of singing or anything like that, just anything that happened on a stage, wasn't really something that was meant for me. You know, I struggled like socially with anxiety and things like that. So I always just thought, oh, that's just not something that's in my realm of anything to do. But then, yeah, I did backing vocals for a couple of my friends, and I loved doing it with them. I think that helped me because I was with some other people as well, so that made it a bit easier. And I do think, like you're saying, you know, you have that first experience and then you're like, oh, people actually clapped and people actually liked that. And it's a bit addictive in the sense that you're like, oh, this is actually really fun. And people aren't as mean as I think they're going to be. People don't think I'm terrible because I'm not terrible. And I just think, yeah, like once you've had that initial positive experience, it's a bit of a gateway to keep doing it.
It's funny you say that. Like, I used to co-host and do sound for like an open mic for about close to a year. With my good friend Kaisha. And you know, we had like a bunch of different people that would come on stage, and some people had never been on stage before. Some were a bit like trepidatious, you know, like you could tell they've been practicing for a while, but obviously when you get on stage, it's a different thing because, you know, you've got people staring at you. And sometimes the places are built for it, you know, if it's a venue, people are there to see music. If it's just an open mic or a pub or, you know, like, you can never really kind of gauge what's going through their head, like, because sometimes it's apathy, sometimes it's general like, oh, that was cool, that was nice. Other times you might get a few dickheads, I don't know, it does happen. Or sometimes it's just like, I don't know, like you just kind of blend into the background. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I remember she always would say, you know, it takes a lot of balls to go on stage to do this, and you know, it's an obvious thing to say, but at the same time, I think it still holds up. Like, it does take a lot of balls to get on stage. And I always respected everyone that got on stage and performed. And I realized for myself, like, because I've been doing it for years as well, you maybe it's, once you've been doing it for a while, you in a way, you do kind of take it for granted. It's like something you just do. And then you don't really think about it anymore. And that's interesting because it does take a lot, and I do get it. Like, I'll give an example, another one. I very briefly took acting classes in Manchester, and you know, it just didn't work out for whatever reason. And I just kept doing my own thing, acting wise, just, you know, just practicing, etc., etc. But while I was there, I met this guy who was like a really funny comedian, a great actor. You know, he'd been doing it for years. And I remember we were waiting to go in for a session, and I was like, you know, the usual, what you've been applying for, what's going on, da 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 da. And he was like, oh, I didn't apply for anything. And I was like, dumbfounded. I was like, what do you mean? Why? And he was like, oh, I just, you know, I don't feel like I'm ready. And I was like, what? I was like, but you're brilliant. Like, you're really funny and really good at this. What do you mean? And then, yeah, it's the anxiety thing. Like, he didn't feel he was good enough. And that's the crazy thing, isn't it? Perception of yourself, of how others see you. You know, I've been performing since I was, I think the first time I got on stage was 11 or 12 years old. I'm 32 now. Been doing it all my life. Like I said earlier, like you still get that nervousness. And I don't know, sometimes I do Dutch courage, or other times just work through it.
Yeah.
And anxiety, like I share it. I got social anxiety myself, and it's unpredictable as well. Like, I get it more with little things. So, like, if it's a room full of people, that almost feels like a cocoon, like safe in a way. Like, I'm, you know, and you make it laugh. Like, you know, you might tell a joke doesn't land, it's silent, and you're like, I'll go fuck myself then. And you just have a laugh of it. Fuck it, like, it doesn't matter. You know, you make a mistake on guitar, you laugh it off. It's okay. But there are people that, you know, like, that freeze in that moment and are like, oh no, this is the worst thing ever. It's not, but it feels that way. It can feel that way.
It does. I think, like, you learn to kind of go with it. I think, like, there's a lot of emphasis on, like, oh, am I prepared to do what I'm going to do? Am I prepared to go and perform and things like that? Because that's something that I think is like you said, most people's fear. It's like, am I ready to do this? Have I prepared enough? Have I practiced enough? But I just think you get to a certain point where you're like, I'm not ever like 100% ready for anything that I'm going to do. So I've just got to kind of embrace that that's part of the experience. And I'm in a very, like, privileged position now where my social media presence has grown enough where I've got quite a fan base of young people and a lot of young people who want to also do music. And I've had a few messages about, like, oh, how have you overcome the anxiety, or how have you overcome the stage fright? And I think it's not a bad thing to have, because I think it's a symptom of your passion, but it's just something you've got to learn to use rather than try and defeat it. Because I think if it goes away, you probably don't care that much about it anymore.
Was there anything in particular that you do that helps you with it? Any ritualistic things? I mean, I mentioned the Dutch courage thing sometimes works. Is there anything for you that works?
To be honest, it's depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing, I experience it quite differently. So if I'm playing at a new venue, I tend to get a lot more nervous than if I'm playing at somewhere I've played at every week or every month. So I think a lot of it depends on where I'm actually at, because when I'm more familiar with a venue and I've been there more regularly, I don't find it as difficult to then get up on stage. But I just think I have to remind myself that, like, you know, if you make a mistake, no one actually cares. And I think as well, musical people are very critical of themselves, and they think, oh, everyone's going to notice if I make a mistake, but usually it's only you that notices.
I will add, though, in certain rooms, the worst critics are other musicians.
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, it won't even be like, they won't say anything, but like, they'll just be the look.
It does happen.
We've all seen the look, you know what I mean? And it can go other ways as well. Some, like, the best look you can ever get is, that's the best look. Just brilliant. Like, you're smashing it. But you're right, we are the worst critics of ourselves, and that's a double-edged sword, because it pushes you to really give your absolute best. But then at other times, maybe, I'm guilty of it as well. There's been times I've gone on stage and I wasn't ready, and I was really critical, especially when I was in bands years ago. I remember in my first band, I was very hard on them, and we'd come off stage and I was like, oh, that was our worst performance ever. And they were like, what? What are you talking about? But I was in my head, I was young, I was foolish. You know, it is what it is. But when it comes to live performance, I suppose, especially when you're trialing and figuring it out and trying to understand, like, what is it that I'm trying to offer? What is it I do? Everything feels new, and everything is, you know, it's like treading water. Like, is this good? Is this not? And I think you are looking for the audience to kind of help you with that. I think in the end, it really just comes down to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you got to kind of be uniform and go everywhere and do your thing. And sometimes it will hit, sometimes it won't. As you're performing with your current music and everything that you're doing right now, is there anything that you're finding that's, let's say, consistent from a performance angle? Like, are you performing it like it is on record? Are you mixing it up a bit more? Are you more into kind of getting the crowds interactive? Like, what's your approach to that live performance wise?
For me, I'm actually very rusty with my own shows, my own gigs, because I haven't played my own solo gig since, I want to say, maybe 2023. Over the last few years, I've just spent a lot of time going to open mics because I've relocated and I haven't got equipment where I need it and things like that. So I haven't been able to do my own gig in a very long time. I think I tend to keep a mixture of my own songs and then a couple of covers in the set, just because sometimes it can be harder to engage people if you don't have something they already know, which is its own can of worms. And yeah, I try and engage with the audience a decent amount. I think if you make a mistake or something like that, in the worst case scenario, if you've come across as personable, then I don't think it feels as bad to then play the wrong chord or something, because you can be like, oh, you know, silly me, that was a mistake, and you can have a laugh and a joke with the audience. Whereas if you kind of just go up there and you say, oh, my name is Mia and this is my song, and then you don't really talk to them at all, it feels a lot more awkward when those things do happen. And I've also found as well that if you try and engage with people a bit more, they're more likely to come up to you and talk to you afterwards, and it's always nice to connect with people. And that's ultimately how you meet other musicians, is you appeal to them first. Your audience as a musician, when you're starting out, is other musicians, and then you build out to other people.
No, you're 100% right on this. I think, and that was what I was going to say earlier as well, when it comes to me getting awkward, like, it's never addressing people on stage I find awkward. It's when I come off stage and someone comes up to me and goes, oh, that was really good, man. And then they got like 50 questions, and I want to talk, but I am very socially awkward. So I'm like not like, I love talking to people. I'm not awkward in that sense, but I'm awkward, like, because my mind is, okay, I need a drink. I need to get off this stage. I need to get all my shit off the stage. So like, that's where my head is at. And there's been times when I've been like, hey, can I meet you at the bar? Give me a minute. I'll be over there, but like, just give me a sec.
Yeah.
Like, But you know, I mean, it's all a learning curve, isn't it? I stunned me before. I've met like big musicians before, and then they've been like kind of awkward. Like there was a musician I met. I think her name was it Leona Flores? I think her name is. She had like a big track on TikTok a few years back. She released an album 2 years ago, which is brilliant. I highly recommend it. Blows her that track out of the water, to be honest. Anyway, she was on stage. She had this ensemble. It's fucking fantastic. She gave the main act a run for their money, to be honest. And I saw her signing stuff. Like it was weird. Like she was behind us, and like it was a Men I Trust gig. So like we're watching the gig, but then she's behind us, and I was like, "Oh fuck it, I'll meet her." Like, come on.
Yeah.
So I bought a record. I got her to sign it, and then I was like, "What do I say?" Because it was just me. Everyone else had like someone with them to take a photo, and I was like, I'll just chat to her for a minute. But like, I wouldn't say she was awkward. Like, she's good with people, but there was a bit of like. And I said to her, I don't want to take too much of your time. You know, I know you're busy. I know what it's like getting off stage. Like, you're like, she's just spoken to about at least 30 people.
Yeah.
But it's quite daunting. The whole thing's daunting, and it's funny because you can get on stage and perform in front of like 100 people, but then talking to a few people for some reason feels more daunting, and I don't understand why that is.
It's so much harder. It's so much harder.
Very strange. Very, very strange. Let's talk about your music. So, from what I understand, you've released one track, which is the one that I discovered, and we'll get into like the theme and everything in a second, but just a good all-round kind of poppy track. Reminded me a bunch of different things.
I've actually released 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a third coming.
Yeah. So right. So I know. You got this other track out, but it's just been released within the last week or two, right? Is that right?
I released it in November.
Missed that? A second track?
My debut came out on the 25th of September, I think, and then
yes, that's the one I remember.
My next one came out on the 28th of November.
Okay, so I'm spacing on that. All right, that's fine. But what I saw in some of your videos was like, okay, I'm slowly releasing these tracks out, and I'm like, okay, so is there like an album there, or is it just kind of singles, testing the waters, figuring stuff out?
At the moment, it's just singles because I'm still trying to build up a fan base as much as possible, and I think an album is something that is probably quite far off for me, not for like a few years. I have had in the talks maybe like a small EP or something comprised of the singles that I've got out and like a couple of additional ones, but it's not something that's currently being planned. At the moment, I'm focusing on just releasing singles as they come, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. So
yeah, I gotta say you got the right approach to it. I'm conscious of not talking too much about my own experience here, because I know sometimes when I meet someone for the first time on the show, no one's ever said this, but I do. It's part of the relation thing. So it's like you want to get most out of the artist, your guest on the show, but you want to obviously connect and share your experiences. I'll just say this on a side note. I've never had an issue with talking about myself in order to push forward a conversation. Do you know what I mean? But I know sometimes people get a bit iffy about that because they're like, well, you're just talking about yourself, man. And it's like, no. If you're only talking about yourself and you're not listening to the other person, then yeah, you are just talking about yourself. But if you're doing it to push a conversation forward and to have an interaction, then that's a conversation. What's the problem?
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on that. Anyway, so I released an album last year. I did a single first, then an album. And I mean, it was what it was. I did a bunch of bucket list things. I'd say I've failed to create a fan base, and I've tried a lot of different things on social media, and we'll get into the social media angle a little bit after discussing your music, I think. But what I will say is that nothing is really predictable. You know, it's a lot of it is just trying to see what would work.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is I learned from my failure that a few things. One is the connection with people, trying to make it as personable as possible, and take your time. For anyone who's thinking of like releasing an album, music, anything, and you know, you're either a up and coming artist, or you've been around for a while, slow it down. Not everything has to be rushed.
Yeah.
You know, I was really eager to get a full length out, get an album out, and I did it, and then it kind of, you know, it was, there's like one track that people reacted to fairly well, and then everything just kind of sat there. And I'm still promoting it a little bit, but now I've moved forward, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to slow this down, and we're going to try something different. So bringing it back to yourself, I think it's interesting that, and I don't know how you did it, because I don't know how to do it. Like, I got a track coming out on the 14th, right?
Yeah.
And there's an option, I think, with certain distributors where you can promote something and have the music like a part of it, like an excerpt of it, but not actually have the track released. And that's what you did with your first single. I remember that there was just endless videos of you promoting this song, and people were like, all the comments were, when are you releasing this? When are you releasing this? When are you releasing this? And it was brilliant. You see what I mean? And it got in your head, and it got in my head, and that's what you want. You know, it's an earworm. So I think like your approach is really smart. Is there anything else that you've kind of learned from, I suppose, that angle, the social media angle, that's worked for you? Because like you said, you've got a bit of a following now, and it's happened fairly quickly. I'd say over the course of like 6 months, you've built quite a decent following through that. So what have you learned?
I mean, I have grown a following really quickly, and I'm very blessed. I mean, I only started posting on TikTok, 'cause that's where I started in March last year. So I've been it's been very hard to wrap my head around like how kind and receptive people have been to my music, because I wasn't kind of expecting the response that I've had. But I would say, like you said, the main thing is just having that engagement and having that personability. I think the hardest thing about being a small artist is the fact that you have all of the jobs. So you're the social media manager, you're the artist, you're the PR team, you're the management, like you do everything. So I have selfishly found a benefit in that by kind of engaging with my followers as much as possible, and forming a bit of a fan base through, you know, we have like a group chat, and we have like a Discord channel, and, you know, I respond to all their DMs as much as I can and things like that. They start to do a little bit of the work for me, in the sense that they inadvertently promote my music to their family and their friends, and so it becomes a bit of word of mouth. So I have a bit less pressure on me actually as well, which has helped me a lot, because they're the most intensely supportive people in the world, and so they tell their mum and their dad and their sisters and their brothers and their friends, and they tell everybody. You know, I've had like some of my younger followers tell me that they've told their teachers at school about me, and it's just things like that, where it's just they start to take on a little bit of my job actually, and do a bit of that promotion for me. So I'm very grateful. And I think as well, like you're saying, take your time with it is really important. I think there's a big pressure. I've especially noticed this since I started kind of promoting my own music, because I started out just doing covers and things like that. There's a lot of pressure for people to make it in the industry, whatever that looks like to them, and there's a lot of pressure to do that kind of immediately. It's like you need to, your first song that you make, to take off on TikTok and to take off on Instagram and to go viral, and then you've got a career. And there's a lot of pressure around, you know, if you haven't made it by a certain point, or if you haven't made it by a certain age, then you can't.
Yep.
And I think it's something that people from all ages feel, that because there are some really, really incredibly young artists out there and on social media who are, you know, 15 or 16, and they're doing amazing things and they're making amazing music, and they're already losing hope that they can't do this because their promotion isn't working or whatever it is. You know, I'm only 19. I've had 2 songs out, and even I have felt sometimes, oh no, what if this isn't the path for me? You just can't tell. You just got to throw all of everything that you can at it, and just hope for the best. And there is an element of luck of the draw, because TikTok will promote the content it wants to promote. TikTok will ban you for random reasons sometimes. But it is also what you put in and what you get out of it. And I think, having that fan base has been the pivotal thing for me, because if I didn't have those people who were consistently commenting or showing up to the lives or whatever it is, I would sometimes have 0 people in that room. and that would make me lose my motivation very quickly.
I think the most important thing that young artists should keep in mind, actually all artists should keep in mind, is to not lose their artistry. Because, as you said, you have to be a social media manager, you have to be a salesperson, you have to be everything. And, you know, like I said, like, I promoted my album for 365 days. I released 3 music videos, a documentary. I'm still promoting the music after all this time, and it's unpredictable, you know. It's crazy how social media works. There are people that know me in real life who have only just discovered now that I am a musician, B, that I've released music. Like, what? And I'm like, oh, but that's interesting, because there's a few things. One, maybe people are just not interested in you. 2, maybe they just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm talking about Instagram in this instance, but it's the same with TikTok. Like, people will be like, oh, I've not seen you in ages. I'm like, I'm here every day. What do you mean? I'm promoting every day. What? But then that's the thing, isn't it? It's algorithms. And we get too hung up on that. Oh, this track's not got enough, you know, followers, listeners, whatever, you know, and I think that takes away from what you're trying to do. You know, at the end of the day, everyone's got their own goals. Like you said, every musician's got their own goals, and this whole pressure on making it, I think it lessens or devalues what you're trying to do. Like I'm not, when I look at what I've done in music and acting and stuff over the years, podcasts even, like, I'm proud of what I've done. Just because it's not like a massive success, it doesn't lessen it for me. But I understand that we live in a society where, like, status is, that pressure's put onto you, even if you don't agree with it, it's put onto you. Yeah. And then I go and I see up and coming artists, and I'm like, they've got a big TikTok following, or they're doing well, but then there's no one there to see them. Yeah. Like, I saw a band recently, and I was the only person that came to see them that wasn't, like, part of their, like, family entourage thing, and I was like, what is this? I don't understand. Yeah. This band's fucking brilliant. What? Yeah. But that's the thing. I think, I don't know, part of the thing I've been trying to push for a while now is trying to get people to go out and listen to up and coming artists, live artists, your local artists. Go listen to them, because it's more affordable, right? I mean, you can see musicians for free, or only for a couple of quid or whatever, right? Versus, and I coined a phrase, someone coined this recently, versus corporate gigs, right? So you can go pay 500 quid to go see Coldplay if you want, or £10 to see this local band, and that local band will blow you out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people have a perception that kind of small artists or local music is just like, is really garbage, or like it's just a bunch of people who want to be something, and I don't think that's something that is a problem. I think if you want to be a musician, that's cool, and I don't think it should be something that is stereotyped, because I know lots of people are like, oh, well, they're just trying to be somebody else. Maybe they're just trying to make it as they are, and that should be allowed.
I think an important thing to consider as well is, like, if you're trying to pursue these things in life for, like, money or fame or whatever, you'll never be happy. Yeah. I know people might say, like, oh, that's easy for you to say, you've not made it, you don't have any money. It's like, well, that's pretty common for artists, I'll just say that. But also, as a driving force, it's kind of a lackluster goal, because you might indeed get those things, and then what? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say like in the next year, like, you just become a megastar, just for argument's sake, right? Mm-hmm. You're still the same person.
Absolutely.
Right? And now it's like, okay, well, I just got to, like, change certain things now, because I've got to adjust and move with this wave. But it's still me writing my music, doing my thing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think when it becomes too much about stats, and this is something that my followers, people who've since become my friends over the years, have tried to bang into my head, and I only really took it in the last maybe year. I'm like, yeah, this is really important stuff. Like, you can't get hung up on the stats. You can't get hung up on any of that. Focus on the people that are there, right there. Like you said, like people that are promoting you to their friends, family. Like that's huge. That is so valuable.
Yeah, you know it's so valuable. And I think, I mean, I'm in a very fortunate position where I have so many passions in my life that I would love to pursue. And so, you know, I'm making music and I listen to music and I write music because it brings me joy and it brings me fulfillment. And so whatever direction that's going to take me in, it will take me in that direction. But I think if you get the bonus of being able to do it full time and to be able to make money off of your music and go and tour and things like that and do all the things you want to do, that's a great bonus. But at the end of the day, nothing's gonna, I would hope, take away from your genuine love for it and your drive to always listen and always write. And so that's a part of yourself that you don't lose touch with, whether or not you kind of make it in the traditional sense or not.
So your music's quite interesting. I've picked up on a bit of a theme. It's, I mean, look, you know, Taylor Swift made a career out of it. At the end of the day, your first track very clearly aimed at us. Well, it seemed like it was aimed at a specific person, but I don't know. Would I be right in saying it was more you took it and you're like, well, let's make this into a concept? Would that be fair?
So a lot of my writing isn't particularly autobiographical. Like a lot of the things I've been writing about in the last year have been a bit more satirical or a bit exaggerated. I will say Chloe is quite an autobiographical track, but everything that I've kind of written going forward, so Nobody's Perfect, which has come out in November, and my next few tracks that I'm thinking about releasing are not autobiographical and they're exaggerated. They come from a place of just silliness and just enjoying writing and having fun with it. So most of my music isn't autobiographical and it's very exaggerated and ridiculous, but there are elements of some of those songs that is autobiographical, it's kind of injected in there.
I'm not criticizing. I think I've done the same. Like I'd be a hypocrite if I, you know what I mean? But it's interesting sometimes because there's like songs on my record where it's like very specific to a specific person, and I took something out of it and made it into a song. And then there's other stuff where it's like maybe that was the starting point, and then it just kind of turned into like a concept, like, you know, like it's about this thing. Like Nobody's Perfect is kind of what I'm referring to, because the track, it sounds like you're kind of like communicating with like an ex who's just a bit childish, really. Kind of reminded me of Sabrina Carpenter. We'll get into that. She did a track called Man Child, which ruffled a lot of feathers and pissed a lot of people off, but it was interesting because a lot of people made the argument was kind of split, because some people were like, oh, well, this is offensive towards men, and, you know, it's like treating men like children. And it's like, well, a lot of other people were like, well, maybe if it applies to you, it might feel that way.
Yeah.
But if you're not immature and you don't act that way, then how could you be offended?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
and it's like, and that's the vibe I got from that track, you know.
Yeah.
Because it is talking about other things as well, but I was like, oh, I suppose my question is like, if you ever wrote or write songs about maybe with this particular person in mind, do you ever worry they might clock and be like, is this about me?
I mean, I do worry about it. I mean, that song wasn't, like, I will say, it wasn't written about anybody in my life that I've met. So I for that song sat down in the studio with my producer and I said, what would a dickhead do? And then we wrote a song based on that concept.
Wow,
so I was like, I want to write a song about you know, a girl who kind of wants everything but also wants nothing, and kind of like has these really big expectations but then kind of cringes when like she gets a lot out of this guy, and then I want him to be a little bit dumb and not really see that. So like it was that was like 100% fictitious, but with Chloe, that was very on the nose, because I wrote it about one of my really good friends. When I first met her, I was very taken by her and how she can kind of light up a room and talk to people, and she just seemed very like socially, it seemed that she found things very easy. And since I got to know her better, because when I first wrote that song, I hadn't known her for very long. I know that that's not how she feels about herself, but that's my perception of her when I first met her, and so I wrote that song all about that. And the name Chloe actually rhymes with her name, so I was very on the nose with that. You can sing her name instead of Chloe and it fits perfectly. And I was thinking, this is a bit of a risk. But, you know, she knows that the song is about her now, and she takes it as a compliment. But yeah, I definitely have worried in the past this may be a bit too on the nose. And what are the consequences of that? I don't want to find out.
It's crazy as well. I saw Love Cat recently, and she has this song about a friend of hers who... I was listening to the lyric. Apparently, when I was at the Manchester show, like, that person was in the audience. Apparently, oh. and the song, I don't know. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but I don't know if it's overly flattering. It's, you know, it's fun. I guess that's their relationship. I don't know, but I was like, imagine you fall out with this person. Like, now you've just got this track, right? And it's like, do you keep singing it or do you not? I mean, because we've seen it over the years. People have written like these love songs for someone, and it's very clearly about this person, and they might even say that as well. And then it just becomes awkward, or they just don't play it anymore. There's that famous track. I can't remember who it's by, but it's like, you probably think you're so vain. You know that one?
Yeah.
Right. And I think the story goes that it was about a producer or something like that, and everyone in the music industry was pretty like, they knew who it was, but it, like, the artist, I don't think she ever revealed or confirmed that. I think it was just kind of like, yeah, like, you know, like pub talk kind of vibes, like everyone knows, but like no one's like, oh, is it? Could it be? Oh, I don't know. I always just wonder about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, anyway. Sabrina Carpenter, your face lit up like a Christmas tree when I did. What is it about her that stands out for you and acts as a source of inspiration?
To me, she's very special to me because I've been a fan of her for the last 10 years. So,
wow. Actual fan.
I feel like I've grown up with her a little bit. So for me, it's very special to see her in the last couple of years to kind of shoot into superstardom. That's been very special to me because I always followed her career. When I was very young, I loved her first ever record. I think it's called Eyes Wide Open. I loved that record. I would listen to it front to back. I think it was probably the first thing I kind of listened to, like, in full, that wasn't kind of introduced to me by, like, my dad. Like, my dad's a big part of my musical taste and influence. So yeah, she's always been very special to me. And I love her style of writing now. I love that she writes things that are satirical and they're ridiculous, because I have a track record of writing very sad songs, and I'm not a sad person, but I always felt like the way that I would write gave an impression that I was very miserable, and I think I felt like it was very hard to break out of that kind of thing that I was in, because I was so used to writing songs that were sad that I felt like I couldn't write anything else. And so her writing style has really inspired me to branch out of that and just write things that are a bit ridiculous and just a bit more fun. And that's not to say that I don't write sad songs anymore, but it's helped me to branch out of that a little bit and feel like I'm not stuck in a niche where all I can write is things that are about the terrible things that have happened to me, because I also have an incredibly joyful life and I don't like to overlook those things. So yeah, she's massively inspiring to me, and I think just as a person, like, she comes across as very down to earth, and she's always made me laugh, and so I've always felt quite connected to her, and yeah, it's very exciting to write stuff and release stuff and have people say that my stuff reminds me of hers, because she's just such an inspiration to me.
So I feel like this quote that I have in my quote book, I have a quote book, people, that I write quotes in. We're up to 149 so far. So you ready for this? Because this refers to you and what you just said. When looking at your art, ask yourself, is it sincere? Was it cathartic? Was it fun to make? Is it made by me? And don't forget to stay silly.
So true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have the same thing. Like I often write sad songs, and actually for me the bigger challenge is to write happy songs, and they're often like super cheesy. But it's, I think the thing I always struggle with is the authenticity angle from a happy song kind of thing, you know, because there are songs that like capture the feeling but almost feel a bit like they're trying too hard, and then there's others that I think are a bit more simple, like that song Happy by, is it Pharrell? Yeah, like I feel like that, if you had to boil it down to just simplicity, is a perfect representation of just kind of being bubbly and silly and happy, you know, like when you really just make it simple. But if it's like, you know, oh, I'm walking through the park, everything's great, everything's lovely, everything's just wonderful, and, you know, life is brilliant, then it will appeal to certain people, but a lot of people will be like, well, that's not what my life looks like. How dare you? And it's like, all right, I get it. But like that's the thing that we're always begging out for, isn't it? Is the authenticity thing. It's like, make it real, make it feel real, because that's ultimately going to be what people relate to. When you write your music, is there any key themes that you're trying to kind of echo through it to relate to your followers, to your listeners, to just the world?
I mean, like I said before, a lot of the writing I've been doing recently hasn't been autobiographical, but there are definitely feelings in those songs that are very real, and feelings that I have felt. So I'm always still trying to keep in touch with something that I felt or something that I've experienced, even if what I'm writing about is fictional. And I can only hope that those are things that also other people find relatable. And I think
particular themes though, like in the so with your music that's going to be coming out, is there anything in particular that you've kind of touched on, maybe you haven't touched on before, or just like certain themes?
I think I've been writing a lot about relationships in the last sort of year, and so a lot of my writing has revolved around that and breakups and the messy parts of relationships, but in a very satirized way. And that's not something I historically have written about a lot, because I think I was very focused on my own feelings and my own emotions, kind of independent of anybody else, and so that's quite new for me. I think I'm, especially in the last month or two, and actually forming a real connection with quite a lot of people through my music. I think I'm now, at the moment, I set a New Year's resolution to try and write a new song every week.
Wow.
And so one of my goals to write a song about soon is my connection with those people, because that's something that's really important to me. So as I listen to them talk about the things that they're up to and the things that they're going through, I think conversations I've had with them has inspired me quite a lot. I spoke to a follower on New Year's Eve about that weird feeling that you get before New Year's, where some people are like, yes, it's New Year's, like I'm so excited, and then other people it feels very ominous, and it feels like, oh, another year has passed. And I've always felt like that on New Year's is a bit like there's a lot of pressure to be excited, and that really inspired me, and I wrote a song about that night.
It's an incredible goal. I wish you the best of it. That's 52 songs in a year. It's doable.
I've stuck to it so far. So
well done. Just keep it up. Yeah, I've noticed that about New Year's. There's been times when it's felt almost depressing, which it's a new year, you know, it shouldn't be. I mean, I think the film that captures it the best has got to be Forrest Gump. There's a scene in that. Have you ever seen that film?
Yeah.
Right. So for those who don't know, I'm sure most people know, but there's a scene in it where Forrest is celebrating New Year's with Lieutenant Dan, who famously doesn't have any legs because I think that he was in the war or something. They were blown off, something like that. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were in war together. Forrest saved him. That was the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he resents Forrest for that because his ancestors always died in battle, and he wanted to do that, and he didn't see the point in living. And it sucks as a story. And there's this just iconic shot of like Forrest celebrating, and it's New Year's, and he's partying, he's oblivious, and Lieutenant Dan's just sat there in his wheelchair, just miserable, and like all the confetti is all over him and everywhere, and it's a miserable picture, but it's like the juxtaposition of the happiness versus the sadness. And I think we've all at some point felt, maybe not even just with New Year's, but that feeling of being in the crowded room and maybe not feeling the vibe that everyone else is feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like quite isolating. It's quite a raw feeling that people don't always get. And if you don't get it, it can... Trying to explain it is a bit tricky because it's like people just think you're miserable, and it's like, yeah, but there's a reason why. Like it's not all in my head, man. I'm not just like a miserable person. Like,
yeah,
it's a series of events. But anyway, I digress.
It is.
Bring it back to Sabrina Carpenter just for a second. I noticed a lot that you were pushing to maybe perform with her one day.
Yeah.
How close are you to that goal?
Very far away.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
You never know. You know, I listen to so much music, and so there's so many artists that I'm so inspired by, and I would love one day to
Any
to
other
meet them.
particular ones?
Oh God, there's so many. I mean, she is obviously one of them, and probably the biggest one that I can think of. But you know, I'm a big Lana Del Rey fan. I've seen her twice live. I'm massively inspired by her, and there are just so many. I listen to so much music. And so, yeah, I'm very far off that goal. I don't think she knows who I am right now. But, you know, that's such a wild dream of mine. And you don't get anything without putting it out into the universe. So, you know, there's no harm in aiming very high, is in my opinion anyway. But yeah, I often like use her hashtag under my videos and things like that, because a lot of fans of her music end up really liking my sound. So my strategy has been to use her as a hashtag as much as possible when I'm promoting my own music, because a lot of people who love her love Nobody's Perfect, and that's a good portion of my fan base are people who are very intense Sabrina Carpenter fans. So I can relate to them in that way.
I gotta say, you're a really smart young lady. Like, there's a lot of... God, I feel like such an old man saying that. But like, I never would have thought of doing that. Like, it's really interesting how you approach your promotion and the way you approach this and stuff. It's very smart. Like, did you learn this? I don't know, at school, from a parent, is there somewhere you get this business kind of mindset?
I am learning as I go. I'm just learning as I go, but I have some amazing friends who are also making music who have helped me a lot. So just asking for their opinion and for their guidance has been a blessing. But no, I'm really just learning as I go, like most of us are, and just once something sticks, just staying with that for as long as it does stick. And that's all you can really do.
No, well done, smashing it.
Thank you.
So, you've been nominated for I want to get this right, SBTM Songs Behind the Music Award for Breakthrough Artist of the Year. Now, what does that mean to you?
It was definitely quite shocking to be nominated. So I did know before they announced the nominations that I was in the running for one, because they had run a text box kind of poll thing on Instagram where they asked, who do you think should be a nominee? And I knew that I had come up, but I thought there's no way that's going to progress anything beyond that, because I only started releasing music in late September. So there's just no way in my head that made sense. But, you know, it happened, and I got nominated. And yeah, it was a very emotional thing for me, because I think it can be hard to visualize kind of how much support you're actually getting when you don't, like, you know, play a live show with a bunch of people in a room. You know that you've got a certain amount of followers, and you know that you've got a certain amount of people who kind of consistently comment or show up for you, but you don't get kind of a metric for that. You know, getting a kind of number of votes is something that you wouldn't obviously ordinarily be able to gauge. And so yeah, it was a shock to be nominated for it, because I think it made me realise, there actually are a lot more people in my corner than I tend to realise. And yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, and I never take it for granted. I think I get very worried sometimes that maybe people don't realise how grateful I am, so I like to take every opportunity I can to tell them, because I'm doing my degree, and I'm living outside of my TikTok page a very normal life where I'm just, I'm studying and I'm working part-time and things like that. And so to be able to do this on the side semi-sustainably is just a massive privilege. And so I don't like the thought that people might not realize how much I appreciate that. So I always like to let them know. It is incredibly humbling, and yeah, I feel very, very grateful because I often say quite a lot, I have a very weird life because, I'll go in to uni 9 to 5 and get some work done, and then 5 to 9 I'm like writing songs and posting music and interacting with thousands of people, and it's a very weird kind of thing to flip between, but it's I'm massively lucky to be able to do that.
It's the life of an artist, isn't it? I know the feeling well. It's strange. Like one day it's like you're serving at the bar, next day you're on set, next day you're on stage, whatever. But it's the life we chose to try and do the things we love, and it's part of the deal, isn't it? But it is strange. It is weird.
It is
it's strange. Yeah, it's very weird. So. We spoke about this earlier a little bit, but I'd love to kind of get your general thoughts on it. So, what do you make of musicians having to be content creators in order to promote their work? Because you're getting success with it, and I think you've got a good attitude with it. You're having fun with it, and I think that's kind of the key, isn't it? Like, you can't take yourself too seriously. I started having fun with mine earlier, a month or two ago. I was like, what if I just play around with the lyrics for a laugh, and got some laughs, and I was like, this is fun. This is what it should be. But what do you make of it in general? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't say that I'm a natural kind of content creator. I know, some people that I want to be an influencer. I want to make videos or things like that, and that's not something. My worst fear is people thinking I'm an influencer before they know that I make music. By the way, but like everybody, to each their own, right? Everybody has their own thing, and
I see that single right there.
Yeah. But I'm not a natural content creator by any means, and I think when I first started out posting videos, I had a little bit of, I don't want to say resentment because that's the wrong word, but I think I had a little bit of bitterness that I had to make so much content, and I had to do things that weren't actually things I would feel inclined to do. Like I felt like I was a bit dishonest sometimes in the kind of content I was creating, because I would cover songs that people would request that maybe I didn't actually like and things like that, because people were asking me to do them, and so it felt a bit disingenuous. And I would get frustrated because I think when I started doing TikTok lives and things like that, it's a bit of a wild west sometimes. Like, people say things that are very out of left field, and obviously you're dealing with them.
Weird. Is it like
creepy, weird, discriminatory, like it's just kind of anything. So, I had a bit of bitterness at the beginning, because I was like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. I sign up to enjoy music and to make music. I don't sign up to get abuse on the internet or whatever it might be, which of course no one signs up for. But I think, like you're saying, you start to learn a way to be genuine and to get across the point that you want to get across, and you start to have fun with it and you start to enjoy it a lot more. So I know there's a big argument online, like you're saying, oh, well, small artists shouldn't have to be a content creator to be a musician, because they're not the same thing. But I think the reality of it now is that a massive part of people's career is social media, and I think you unfortunately now can't have one without the other. You can't go to a record label and send them a CD and sign a label and become massively famous. You have to go through the social media route, because there's actually no other way of doing it now. And I think, yeah, it's hard, and I agree that, like, you shouldn't have to be one to be the other, but I don't know, I think it's hard to imagine making it without it now.
Yeah, I agree on the social media angle, although I will say with labels and film directors these days and stuff like that, all they care about is numbers, and that's just not realistic. That's not what being an artist is, and it's not sustainable.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I just started listening to Joe Keery's music. D-Joe, that's how you say it. Joe? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just Joe, yeah.
Joe, yeah. So, turns out he did that all off his own back, like independent. And he smashed it. Like he's kind of done a Childish Gambino in the sense that like his acting career and music career, like it's like different people almost, you know. And you know, I think the thing that I look at in particular is, you know, we were speaking about artistry earlier, like what things look like, how things are presented. Like, yeah, you have to have a social media presence, right? But you don't have to be a content creator. Like, it's a choice. You know, you can have fun with it. I think the reason that I decided to try it is, A, why not just try it? B, I've always been a content creator anyway, and C, yeah, I never minded being a little bit silly. But I know that like with certain things it won't work. Like if it's a more serious thing or you're trying to do like a concept thing, stick to your art. Stick to what you want to do, you know? Don't feel the pressure. You don't have to do it. It's a choice. You know, it's always a choice.
I do agree with you there. Like, I think there's a perception that it has to be very regimented and you have to do certain things to achieve certain things. But I think you also have to stay true to yourself. So if you're going to make a kind of content that doesn't feel right to you, then it probably won't resonate with the audience because they can read you quite well, I find. Yep. So yeah, the main thing is having fun with it and then finding your niche of the kinds of things that you actually enjoy creating, because then the people who enjoy that will come and find you eventually. But it's better to stick to something longer term that feels more you than to do something that feels disingenuous just to get some figures, because also your audience is then misled by that as well, which isn't fair on them.
You mentioned that you're studying. What are you studying?
Psychology.
Psychology? Ah. Are you going to become a doctor of psychology?
Yes, I'm kind of stuck in two minds between counselling psychology and doing music psychotherapy at the moment, because obviously that would be the perfect marriage of the things that I love. Cool. But yeah, going into something therapeutic, so it'll be one or the other.
Be Dr. Carmen on stage. Hey, crazy things that happen. I got a friend who's a doctor in psychology. I kid you not. And she's the lead singer of a punk rock band.
I love that.
Yeah. And it blew my mind because I remember when I met her, she was studying the PhD and had like a full-time job and was doing the band and managing a label. And I was like, how do you have the time? Yeah. And she made it work. And then one day I just see it like, boom, oh, I got my PhD. What? So now I'm doctor. I'm like, that's mad. That's the coolest shit ever. So there you go. I'm calling it Dr. Carmen. It's going to happen one day. All right, here's some big questions. You ready? Mm-hmm. What has music taught you about life? I think
that this is actually kind of easy for me to answer, I think, because I think I've thought about this actually a lot. I have always felt a little bit... like I've always found it quite hard to relate to people, like especially growing up. I always found it quite hard to connect to people, and I think I had some very big feelings that were very difficult for me to explain. So I've always been very like deeply empathetic and things like that, and those are very, very big things to process on your own. And I think music was always so healing for me because it gave me this outlet where I always felt like there was someone in the world that understood what I was going through. So I could always find a song or an album that reflected how I was feeling, and it helped me to process whatever it was that I was dealing with at that time. So I think it's taught me about life that you're even in times where your situation feels very, very specific to you, or your feelings feel very specific to you, that there's always somebody else who's gone through it or gone through something similar enough where they can understand your perspective. Because I always, growing up, kind of thought that, oh, I'm seeing the world in my own way, and no one else can get that because I can't even begin to explain it myself. But then music always put that into words for me in a way that I could never do myself.
There you go. Solid stuff. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
I
will add, before you answer, right? So there's a reason why I've added this question as part that I always have these like questions at the end of every show, right? Mm-hmm. Like the bigger questions, and the next couple of questions will be positive, right? But I do actually think there's something to be learned from this, because we get great advice in life and we also get terrible advice in life, and we can learn a lot from the things that we don't follow, and that's why I'm including this question. So I'll just say that. Worst advice.
I think I've been given quite a lot of bad advice over the years.
I'm sure.
I think a lot of, at least musically, I think a lot of the advice that I've been given that I would never ever now, with my knowledge today, give somebody else is a lot to do with like always go with the audience, or always do what the audience wants. All that kind of advice about like cater to the when I was like a lot younger and I was playing at pubs in like summer events and things like that, it was always like, you know, do Valerie by Amy Winehouse, like, you know, like always these things that like crowd pleasers, and I get that you want to have a crowd pleaser in there to engage people and things like that, but that always felt disingenuous to me, because I was doing something not necessarily because I wanted to, but because it was what other people wanted to hear from me. And I think a lot of artists fall into that trap of like going to play at pubs that only let them on because they do a whole set of covers, because they don't want to hear anything original. And so, yeah, that's advice that I think is bad. And I understand where it comes from, because it seems logical, but I would never, ever bestow that on someone else, which is always do what the audience wants, because you have to strike a balance between making sure that the audience enjoys you and enjoys your music and enjoys you being there, but also not sacrificing being true to yourself.
I completely agree, and you've touched on a big thing for me here. I've seen it happen in real life. Fucking, oh, play Valerie. No.
No.
It's just end of conversation. No, but I get it. And I think a lot of that comes down to just being in the wrong venues, really, wrong places. It's not for them. And that's fine. You know, there's places for that. There's musicians that do that. Last year, I did a lot of covers gigs, and I was getting paid to do it, and it was great. But I'm not doing it now. Why? Because I don't want to play other people's music. Yeah. Same thing you said. I'm sick of walking into places and, oh, play this, play this, play this, play this. It's like soul crushing for a musician when you've got the original music and you're trying to push that. I looked at it and I was like, what are the benefits of doing it? Okay, you get paid, you get to perform. Now, as a musician, anytime you get to perform, fantastic, it's great. But when you're playing other people's music, unless it's music specifically that means a lot to you in some way, it's just kind of going through the motions, I feel.
It is.
You know?
And I say that with the caveat that, like, obviously there are some amazing covers artists out there.
Yeah, right.
I'm you know, they're absolutely amazing and incredibly talented. And I think, you know, if I go to a pub or I'm on TikTok Live or something and someone asks me to play Valerie, if I'm in the mood to play Valerie, I'll play Valerie. Like, it's a good song, it's fun, I'll do it. But I think it's just when that feeling of autonomy gets taken away from you, like, oh, these people are only going to listen to me if I play them something that they already know, and they're not actually interested in me as a person. I think that's the bit that feels soul crushing. And yeah, I think it's hard to kind of communicate that in a way that makes sense to the listener.
There was an artist that I met at an open mic a few years back. Shout out to Charlie Hawkins. I don't know if she'll ever see this. She's an amazing singer. Like, she can do anything. It's incredible. And she has her own music out. And we were at, was it Peaky Blinders in Manchester, which they used to do open mics. They don't do it anymore. It's not built for it. It's just not. Like, you throw someone on in the background, play some like covers, they'll blend in. That's what people want. Or if it's a Saturday night, people, play fucking Wonderwall. You know, that's what they want, right? But this was an open mic. And it was interesting. It was my first time there. It was my last time ever going there. Because I just looked at it and I was like, these people don't want this. And it was interesting. She got on stage. She played a few originals. People clocked, oh, this girl can sing. And I could hear, like, with her voice, I was like, all right, I bet she could do this. And she did, like, an amazing, I think it was a Florence and the Machine cover or something like that, which is really fucking hard to sing. Like, wow. And, like, you know, sure enough, random people were, like, dancing and drunk and, like, yeah, great. I'll play this. And she played it like, she's a smart artist. She's like, she knew, like, oh, I'll throw this in, they want this, I'll play this. And she's used to it, right? But I went and I listened to all of her music and I was like, this is fantastic. This is really, really great music. And I see her now sometimes doing covers gigs. I'm like, that's cool. If it's just a way of making money and you're happy doing it, and that's the key. If you're happy doing it, by all means, right? But there is a big difference between being an artist and being a covers artist. There's people who make careers out of it, and it's its own thing. But you can't mix. Like, it doesn't. I've tried throwing in my originals in covers sets, and people don't want to hear it.
Absolutely. It's like I love playing covers, and I love like singing other people's music. It's one of my favorite things to do. I sit with the guitar for hours and I can do it. But it's when people aren't prepared to hear your own stuff in the mix of that it is disheartening, because it's like, oh, you actually only liked that because you already knew the song, and it was actually nothing to do with me or what I can bring to the table.
Yeah. There's been open mics I've done where that's the case. I played a couple of originals and one cover, and I remember one time, because I love Radiohead, so I sometimes play Radiohead's tunes, and I included this song, and then these people go, oh, what was that song that you played last? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's a Radiohead song. Oh, thank you. They didn't care about me, they just want to know, yeah, who's it by? Great. And your heart just sinks. And it's not their fault. Look, they're just sitting there listening. They're just the audience. But it's like, oh, I wish they'd say that about my music.
Yeah.
But there will be people that will. But yeah. Anyway. Let's bring the mood up. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I think something I've been kind of following over the last year, like when I've been actually putting out my own music, is... to a level, there's a level to this, but bite off more than you can chew and then just chew it really hard. Because I was always very like, oh, I can't make music, I can't release music, because how will I balance it with everything else I've got going on, and you know, will I become so in love with it that it makes everything else a bit more difficult? Yes, that is true a little bit, because I would love to have more time in my schedule for it, but I'd rather have not as much time as I would like to do something that I'm doing, rather than give it no time at all. And so that's been a big bit of advice that's been kind of in my head for the last year, is just take on as much as you possibly can, and you'll fit it in somewhere. And then if you really can't fit it in, you'll figure it out. But like, from my perspective now, I can't imagine what my life would be like if I hadn't started posting on TikTok in March and releasing my own music, because it brings me so much fulfillment that I can't picture my life any differently right now. So yeah, just like take every opportunity and just do it, and like do the things that you love doing, because life is way too short to not do them. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week, and it's not worth waiting around to find out. I think just do the things that you want to do.
Wise beyond your years, man. It's blown me away. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far? I think it's quite similar to what I said before, but not letting other people's opinions kind of dictate what you do too much, because you know, there's lots of people that have a lot of things to say on the internet about your appearance or what you're doing or the music that you're making, or, you know, like people say now, oh, you're just trying to be this other person, or, you know, like people have a lot of opinions, and they want to say them because they think that hiding behind a screen makes them immune to that kind of thing, and that's its own sort of issue. But I used to get very in my head about the content that I would post. Like you were saying, you know, you learn to have fun with it over time, but I think in the beginning you sort of think, how are people going to see me, and what if this is just a stupid idea and it doesn't work out? I've quite quickly stopped caring about those things. You know, I used to think, what if I post a video and it doesn't do well? No one cares, only you notice. No one's looking at your view account except you. You know, and just understanding that, like, no, everybody's so busy caring about themselves that no one really cares about you in that way. No one's looking at your numbers and thinking, well, that's really pathetic. No one's seeing a hate comment and thinking, oh, that's justified. You know, it's only that person who's left it. So I think it's just not caring so much about what other people think, because a lot of the time people don't have the time to even form a thought about you that's negative. They're just scrolling on, minding their business, and they're just doing their own thing. It really, I gotta say, it's really refreshing to hear all of this and your opinion on these things. I could talk to you forever about these things, but I don't want to take up all of your time. But thank you. Do you have any upcoming projects or final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, I have so many projects. I'm so excited. I have a new song coming out very soon, which I'm hoping to announce the release date of in the next week or two.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for it to be mastered and then it's done. So I'm very excited. and I'm working on a collaboration with one of my really good friends as well. So, I'll be heading to his studio in a couple of weeks to work on that. So hopefully that's something I can give some updates and some teasers about as when we get there. And yeah, I think, I'm writing so much music, and I'm in such a good place at the moment where I'm very lucky to not have any writer's block at the moment, and I'm just making so much stuff, and I'm having a lot of fun with posting snippets. There's been quite a few TikToks recently where I've written something and then 20 minutes later I've posted it. So I've been really enjoying just writing stuff and then just putting it out in the world and seeing what sticks, because that's given me a really good idea of what I want to actually do something with going forward. So I'm just hoping to have so much music out this year, and I don't plan on stopping at any point soon. I'm just having so much fun with it, and yeah, I'm sure there's so many more things that will come up, I'm sure, that I'm not even thinking about right now. I've been like a master at keeping secrets over the last year, because I feel like there's just so much going on that I can't quite disclose yet. But yeah, lots of music plans, and hopefully all going well, I will have a couple of gigs this year if I can manage that. I'm emailing venues and hoping for the best, and so yeah.
I'll be there for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show, for just sharing your knowledge, your mindset. It's been a lot of fun hearing just about your progress and how your mind works and stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, make sure you go out of your way to check out Mia's music. It's available everywhere right now. Mia Carmen, go check it out. And as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.